Hello, hello. Happy Monday, and welcome to the Budget with Me monthly rollover edition. My name is Ernie. I'm one of the teachers around here at YNAB, and I'm joining you from Eau Claire, Wisconsin, in the United States. Now, before we get started, I always like to do this at my Zoom lives, and I also like to do them over here on YouTube as well. Let's do a little something to make sure everything's working with audio and just have a little fun at the beginning. So, why don't you take a look at your budget real quick and tell me how much money you have left over in the eating out category? It's July 31st, people. How much money do you have left in eating out? And I don't even need to check. I've got $0. I've had $0 since when did we eat out? Tuesday. So I've gone a whole week just staring at zero. All right, $3.08. Impressive. Just the fact that you have anything left over, I'm impressed. Yep, seen a lot more zeros. $40. That's the high so far. Ashley, zero, right there with me. Enrique, 60. That's the new high. Joe says, hey, Joe, welcome back. Good to have you in another live here. Joe says, leftover? Yeah, of course. Hey, I see a few folks that were with me in my lives earlier today. Good to have you in another session here. 1181. Scott Carey, 557. Patricia, 30. Wow, there's a lot more folks that do have money left over than I was anticipating. So well done. You folks are much better budgeters than Ashley and myself. All right, good. So everything is working. Folks can hear me. Folks are settled in. Let's go ahead and get started. So I'm doing the monthly rollover, and I'm just basically transitioning my budget from July to August. And let me pull up my budget here. This is not my actual budget. It was a little weird sharing category balances, especially on the tracking accounts. So I just dummied those up, but everything else is my budget. Those categories, a lot of the category balances are as they actually are in my real budget. So this is as close as you can get to my actual budget. And when I go into this monthly rollover, because for me, it's a tradition. You know, the last day of every single month, I'm sitting down and I'm walking through these mechanics and I'm walking through this thought process. And I even have it as a recurring to-do item in Todoist. Last day of the month, I get this reminder. And even though I don't need a reminder, I just have it brought up, just kind of built in to that workflow that I have. And the whole purpose of this is I don't want there to be surprises in the next month. I don't want there to be surprises in my category balances. I don't want there to be surprises in the account balances. I don't want there to be surprise in my ready to assign or my credit card payment categories. And so I'm going to walk through what I do to make sure that when August rolls over, the previous month's budget is tidied up and there's no surprises for me. So first thing that I do, and I'm going to try to be keeping an eye on these comments as well, is I start on the account side. And I would say that most of my rollover happens in the account registers. And so I'm going to go through and I'm going to import any new spending. And in this case, I actually don't have any transactions to import. I opened my actual budget. There's nothing to import. Usually my accounts import early in the morning. But then I will also sign into my individual bank accounts and see if there's any pending transactions. And I want to add those pending transactions myself because, again, I don't want any surprises. And sometimes those transactions that happen at the end of the month, they can surprise you the next month. And this has happened to me before. I'll do some spending at the end of the month. and it usually happens on a credit card. I'll do some spending at the end of the month. It won't import because it hasn't cleared with the bank. And then it'll import like on the first or second day of the next month. And then when it imports, it causes a little bit of overspending in the previous month's budget. However, I'm in the current month's budget. I don't pick up on that previous month's date. And all of a sudden, I have an overspent situation in that previous month that I'm completely unaware of. And so for that reason, I just always make sure I add my pending transactions to the accounts before the month actually rolls over. That way, there's no surprises. And the other reason, and I didn't actually think about this until this morning when I was walking through my budget, and I didn't even set this up. This is just like perfectly placed. I like adding pending transactions when there is a needed for spending repeating target involved. So let me walk through this and tell you exactly what I'm talking about here. So Earthbound, that is our garbage provider here in Eau Claire, and their bill comes every 3 months. And so I have a needed for spending. Let me actually go over the budget here. I have a needed for spending target that repeats every 3 months. And so in order for that target to correctly work, I need to enter my spending in July, because the way it is right now, the goal was to save $86.83 by July and then also spend $86.83. If I didn't spend that money, I would have $86.83 available. And then August rolls over. And August is when that target is supposed to reset. And so YNAB is saying, hey, you need 86.83 by, in this turn, it would be October. You need 86.83 by October. Oh, look, you already have it. So it would say, hey, you met the target for this next spending cycle. Good job. And then I would, then that transaction would import. It would have the August date and I would have zero. But then YNAB would not be prompting me to set money aside August, September, and October for that next bill in October, right? Because I already satisfied it in October. So to avoid that whole mess and to make sure those needed for spending targets are calculating correctly, I make sure I get that spending in at the end of the month as well. So this has not cleared with the bank. And so I just added it myself, and it's marked basically as paid according to YNAB. Let me address this here. What happens when the pending transactions post to the new month instead of the last day? So in my case, they're always going to, once those transactions actually import, they're going to match up with the version that I entered myself. And so when this imports in August, it will still have the July date. Because what it does is it matches and it keeps all of my information. Good question there. Okay, so things look good. Now, once I've added all the pending transactions and there's nothing to import, I reconcile the account. And then I just do that through every single account. This is going to be pretty easy. Reconcile. Now, is this your current account balance? I would sign into my bank. Those two are going to match. Yes. And the accounts are reconciled. In this case, there was nothing to reconcile because that was the only uncleared transaction I had. Only transaction, I guess, that I have in my bank. I don't have any cleared transactions. Okay. So then we move on to the savings accounts. Christy and I have 2 savings accounts, and there's not a lot of activity going on in these savings accounts. So generally there's nothing that I have to do. I don't have to add any transactions, though I will say, if I'm doing this late enough, I do have a bank account that posts interest between like 9 and 9:30 at night. And so if I happen to be doing my monthly rollover when our bank posts the interest for the month, I will go ahead and add that myself. And I'll just simulate what that would look like. Let's say I log into my bank and I see, oh, I've got, $1.78 in interest, because that's just a little bit more money that I can then use for next month's budget. And I'm always categorizing that interest, that earned interest, as ready to assign, $1.78. And since that has cleared at my bank, I'm gonna mark that as cleared in YNAB as well. So now when I go to reconcile, log into my savings account, the current balance at my bank is going to match the cleared balance in YNAB, because when it comes to reconciliation, I'm only concerned about that cleared balance right there. All right, so that looks good. Now, this second savings account that we have, this is a high yield savings account. That interest does not post until the next business day. So nothing I can do. If I have some cleared unreconciled transactions, I will reconcile. Yep, there we go. Okay. Then that brings me to the cash account. I do have a cash account, and I have to say, I love my cash account. I just recently added it. It's probably 6 or 8 months old, but it basically has allowed me, and this is my plug for cash accounts. It allows me to be my own banker. I don't have to go to the bank to deposit cash. I don't have to go to the bank or go to Target to withdraw cash, right? I've basically become my own banker. Yes, I do have to keep track of that cash, but I've found that it's actually kind of fun. Every Friday, I take the cash out and I count it on the drawer. I mean, my boys are probably looking at me like, you're really weird, Dad, but I don't know. There's just something about counting out, touching that actual cash. And then I walk through that process again at the end of the month. And so as long as they match, so I count up my actual cash, and let's say it does, there is $995 in my actual cash envelope. That matches the balance that I have here in YNAB. Reconcile. Yep. Good to go. And for those of you that are just joining in, welcome. My name is Ernie, and I'm with YNAB. It stands for You Need a Budget, and I'm just walking through a monthly rollover. So how do you transition the budget from one month to the next month? And the focus is, I don't want to have any surprises here, right? So I'm trying to pin down everything before that month turns over. Okay, so I'm done with the cash accounts, and that leads me to the credit card accounts. We have 3 credit card accounts, but we are only using 2 of them right now. I'm really trying to convince Christy for me to ditch my Hyatt card. It's $90 a year. I just don't think we're maximizing our points as much as we used to. So there's really not a need for them. I think having 1 card is good enough, but we'll dive into that later on. All right, same thing. I'm just if there's transactions to import, I'll bring those in. I'll sign into the Discover account, sign in the Chase account, and see if there's any pending transactions. I signed into those ahead of time, and there's nothing. So in this case, I do have these accounts linked. And so now I get to use that direct import reconciliation feature. I love that so much. Prior to this feature, I used to reconcile once, maybe twice a week. And now I've been reconciling pretty much every single day, because all I have to do is click that. YNAB pulls in from the previous import my recent bank balance, and it compares it to my cleared balance. So those 2 are matched. Files away that cleared transaction. Then I just have these pending transactions with the July date. And when they import tomorrow or the day after, they'll match up with those. And so I'm good to go. Same thing with Hyatt. So nothing here, but I'm going to hit that reconcile button anyways. Yep, those 2 match. Looks good. Perfect. Nothing there. And there we go. So those are my main spending accounts. I don't spend a whole lot of time because I'm in the budget pretty much every day, keeping up with transactions and keeping up with reconciliation. So when I close everything out, I mean, seriously, I can do it in probably a minute or 2 minutes. I'm not wasting a whole lot of time there. And generally, there aren't a whole lot of surprises. And then I will also, if I haven't already, I will reconcile the mortgage account. Just hit that update balance. Generally, I do this after I pay the mortgage on the first of the month. But if I happen to forget and it's not reconciled, sign into my bank, check that mortgage balance. Yes, that's my current balance. And I'm reconciled. Okay, friends, this is where it gets really fun and interesting for me. I'm going to be going through my tracking accounts and updating those balances. And the reason it's so fun and interesting is because I don't pay any attention to these accounts during the month. I'm not monitoring the stock market. I'm not signing into these accounts to see what the balance currently is. And I'm not recording any contributions that I make to these accounts. And so when I update them at the end of the month, it really is a surprise as to how much money the account has lost or gained. And so Christy and I each have a Roth and a 401 with our employer. And so this is where then I will just sign into those actual accounts. So let's start with Christy's Roth. And again, these are just dummy numbers here. I'm going to hit that reconcile button. Nope, that's not my balance. And then I copy whatever the balance is at Christy's account and I paste it into YNAB. And I'll do that 4 times. And really the most annoying thing here is that I need Christy to be next to me so that she can give me her one-time PIN to access her accounts. So let's say, and again, I honestly don't even know what the stock market has been doing. I hope I've seen a gain over the past month. Say it's 10,250. There we go. Create that adjustment. Got my new balance. And also, if you're a new YNABber, do we have any new YNABers? Anyone where this is your first monthly rollover? I'm curious if this is your first monthly rollover. Okay. A few of you. Excellent. So this part with the tracking accounts is not necessary. You know, if you're looking at my budget thinking, I do not want to do that, that is overwhelming, I have no interest, don't do it. I love monitoring those balances. And so it's actually a joy for me to be able to keep track of where the retirement account balances are at. But if that's not you, don't do it. Don't create more work for yourself. Okay, Roth, sign into my Roth account, reconcile. Nope. Let's say mine is 10,251. Outgained Christy by $1. Okay, same thing. Sign into Christy's 401 account, get that one-time PIN, reconcile. It's really tricky when Christy is away from the house. Maybe she's traveling for work or something. And I'm doing the monthly rollover, texting her at night, like, hey, can you send me that one-time PIN? I'm sure I annoy her quite a bit. Let's say 103.5. I don't know. Again, I'm hoping all those account balances go up, but maybe they don't. Reconcile. I'm going to give myself $1 more again because I think I'm funny that way. Whoops. Nope. Create that adjustment. So I just reconciled the account twice. Do you know that you can undo reconciliations? I think that's helpful. So, okay, so I'm back to 103.5. Nope. 103.501. Okay, perfect. And then what I do once all of my accounts are reconciled and I've got those updated balances on the investment accounts, I'll just pop into the net worth report and take a look at the change in things. Now, again, this is, it is basically my budget, but it's not my exact personal budget. And so there's not all the previous history. So there's nothing fun to look at here, but I'll just kind of look at that change in my net worth between last month and this month. And I don't do anything with that information. It's more of just a, that was interesting kind of thing. Okay, so after I'm done with the account side of things, and I know all those balances are in check, then I'm going to hop over to the budget and I'm going to see if any of those account changes made any impact to my category balances, or if there's something in my category balances that needs my attention. So I'm looking for overspending. And those tracking accounts are not going to impact any of my categories, at least the way that I handle my tracking accounts. And we have these new focused views right up here. And so I don't see the overspent view. So that's telling me my categories are good to go. And if I did have some overspent categories, I would make sure I paid those categories back before the month actually rolls over to August 1st. Because again, I don't want any surprises. And if you have cash overspending, you're going to get a surprise in ready to assign. It's going to be negative that amount. If you have overspent category from credit overspending, the surprise is going to be more credit card debt, or it might happen later on in the month where you make a payment in full and you don't have enough money in your payment category because of that overspent category from the previous month. So I don't have any overspending in this particular case. Every so often there is overspending at the end of the month, especially if we do a lot of spending. You know, if the month ended on a Saturday, I'm definitely making some changes. I'm covering some eating out. I'm covering some groceries, maybe some gas money. But I tidied that up over the weekend, and now on Monday, not a whole lot of activity. We're good to go there. You know, Misha, yeah, tomorrow will be a real budget. So I'm going to assign my money to the August budget tomorrow. That's going to be over on Instagram. That will be my actual budget. I was a little shy about sharing those balances. Maybe I'll get the courage someday and I'll do it. But yeah. Okay. And then after that, all I do is I go to my next month category because I hold the current month's paycheck in that holding category. And instead of assigning the money in the future month, and what I do is I just release it then. And that money, that 178, that's from the interest that I added. So I'm going to move that 5,700 to ready to assign. So that category is empty, and I'll start filling that up in August with the August paychecks. So there we go. The July budget is ready to go. Accurate account balances, an updated net worth. There's no overspending in the budget, and my ready to assign money is ready to go for tomorrow on August 1st. Oh, and the other thing that I do as well, I forgot to mention this. I'll just check through my category balances just to kind of see where I'm at and see if there's any changes that need to be made. I did this a lot when I was aggressively paying off debt, because any little bit of leftover money I would want to put towards that debt payoff in the next month. But yeah, right now, things are actually running pretty thin. So I just kind of keep things as they are. If there's a savings goal that we have in mind that we're really trying to amp up and reach soon, maybe I'll take a few dollars out of some categories that have wiggle room and move them to that savings priority. Hey, Ben, good to have you here. And that's my monthly rollover, folks. It is not done in a bathtub no matter what Ben is going to tell you on Budget Nerds. Why are you not in a bubble bath? Yeah. I don't even know how that started, but it is a special event for me. Like, I really do look forward to just closing everything up in the current month. All right, folks, let me take a look at some of the comments here. Yeah, people are asking about Instagram. And I think it's just you need a budget at you need a budget, right? At you need a budget on Instagram. And so that's going to be tomorrow, 7 Eastern. And that will be my actual budget. And I'm going to do the thing where I set up my camera, my phone pointed at my laptop. So do you release August money on the last day of the month? I do. Yep. And then, sometimes, Joanna, I will just assign that money to August. Sometimes I will wait until August 1st because then I just get to do a little bit more budgeting. It's totally up to you when you assign that money, though. Do you mind repeating the reviewing overspending and making those adjustments? Absolutely, Julie. So I want to make sure that I don't end the month with any overspent categories because the overspent categories will not carry over. So you will have a surprise in that next month when those overspent categories don't roll over. And so the easiest way to track down your overspending is just to look at the top. These are your focused views. These are the ones that I created myself, but these are the default ones: underfunded, overfunded, money available. And if you have an overspent category, it's going to show up and it's going to be yellow. So it's going to catch your attention. And then you can also just scroll through each individual category and look to see if you have a negative available balance there. But I would rely on that filter because sometimes you might have hidden categories or something could just kind of slip out of your view. Pay those categories back, and then there won't be any surprises that next month. Yeah, let me talk about this a little bit, Joe. So I am a month ahead. That's what we talk about. You'll hear that phrase a lot around YNAB, where you're in a place where you are living off of money that you made last month. So as Christy and I were getting paid in July, we didn't need that money in July because we were spending the money that we made in June. And so what I do is I just stuff our July paychecks. Where's that category? I just stuff them in what we call a holding category. So then our July paychecks just sat here unspent July 1st through, whenever we got paid in July through July 31st. And that is the money that we're going to then use to build the August budget. And so what I always do at the end of July, end of the current month, I just release the money in that holding category to ready to assign. And then on August 1st, I'm going to assign those dollars to the August budget. And like I've mentioned a couple times, I'm going to be doing that live tomorrow over on Instagram. Yeah, this is a good question, Carol. Can you all do something on deciding on bank accounts? What features do you look for and which accounts do you pull from first or fund first? I try to keep my account structure as simple as possible. And, this would be a good budget nerds topic, but I mean, I really don't even like that I have 2 savings accounts, but besides simplicity, one of my other values is easy access. I like being able to know I can go to the credit union down the street and access my money right away. And so that's, I just put a little bit there and put a little bit in a high yield savings account to try to optimize. But yeah, this even feels like too many accounts for me. One too many savings, one too many credit cards, but that's just my personal preference because simplicity is one of my values. And then I'm not even looking for new accounts to open. Even if there are better interest rates to chase, I feel like that game could go on forever. And I don't feel like playing that, at least at this point in my life here. How does overfunding work in the rollover when you're holding next month's money? I don't run into a situation of things being overfunded because I am holding those current month's paychecks in the current month. If I was assigning my current paychecks to the August budget, then I might run into an overfunding situation. But what I would do is on August 1st, when the budget actually rolls over, I would just click on that overfunded view and I would see if with the monthly rollover and the recalculation of needed for spending targets and what I've currently assigned, does it create any overfunding situations? But with my workflow, that's just not something that I ever run into. This is a good question. Does the holding category still work if we're not a month ahead? Absolutely, because you can get that month ahead in stages. Maybe the first goal is I want to be a month ahead with one bill, right? Put that in the holding category or just assign the money to the next month's budget. Then it's, I want to be a month ahead with all my bills. And then you keep kind of building it out until eventually you get to that point where you're that month ahead for everything. And then some folks with variable income like to use that holding category as well. As the paychecks are rolling in, they don't know how much the next one's going to be or when it's going to happen. So they're funding all their bills. And then if they get a little bit of excess, they put it in that holding category and they can tap that excess, in those months where there's a little less than expected, right? They just move money from the holding category to ready to assign, and then they use it however they want that month. What if you change your categories, split some or combine some? Will it mess up previous months and go back to adjust? You can absolutely change those categories. It's just gonna, if you were to delete a category, Debbie, you would merge that data from the old category to the new category. So you'd still have it accessible in all of your reports. And I'm constantly changing my categories. I'm adding new ones. I'm deleting them. I'm merging. I'm hiding them. In fact, I don't want to get into it too much because I'll talk about it more tomorrow. This is a completely new budget. I wanted to give focused views a fair shot. And so I got rid of all my groups. One group, relying on those filters now. The Instagram session tomorrow, Greg, will not be posted on YouTube, but we will save it on Instagram. Last time I did not save it. Oops. This time I will. So if you can't catch it live, you'll be able to catch that recording. Do you also put any extra dollars or pennies in overfunded categories in ready to assign for tomorrow as well? I don't do that, where you have like a penny or two in ready to assign and you just monitor that to see if there's any change to it. Nope. That's why I just try to be really thorough at the end of the month. So that's the workflow that I've developed so that when it does roll over on the first, I can trust the budget when I open it up. You can close those accounts whenever. I would say as soon as it's closed in the real world, Carol, close it in YNAB. And then that closed account will just be under a closed tab, out of sight, out of mind. All right, folks, that's the monthly rollover. Give it a shot. If you have any questions, don't hesitate. We have a fantastic support team here. They've done a lot of work on building out documents to help you at any point in your YNAB journey. And so I'll put a link over there. And actually, yeah, some of you, if you're still a little bit confused, here, let's take care of this. Let's go to that support page. End of month, when the month rolls over. So this will walk through pretty much everything that I covered. Yep, positive amounts in the categories, negative amounts, assigned amounts, what happens to those. Okay, a lot of good information here. Here we go. I'll put that over in the chat window. All right, friends, thank you. I hope this has been helpful. I hope it's been fun. And I hope to see you tomorrow, 7 Eastern on Instagram. Again, that's going to be my real budget. I'll be assigning my July funds to the August budget. Take care. Happy budgeting. See you, friends.